Alright guys, my name is Alberto, aka Destroyer 48, aka Subscribe for Food, aka Subscribe for Nuts, haha. Aka I have a trillion channels, aka I'm the ghost with the most. Doesn't make sense, but sounds pretty damn good. Welcome to the show, welcome to Pro Wrestling Classic. I waited for this day. I've been trying to get as much information as I can on the tag team. Well, if you're here for my review of the tag team, the Midnight Express, you're in the right place. Because I will be doing the review of the tag team. I keep repeating myself. Of the Midnight Express. I'm kind of nervous about doing this. Just like a lot of the other wrestlers and stuff, they have so many matches. And what I'm going to do, what you're going to get out of it, is what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you what I remember of the Midnight Express, what comes to mind, talk briefly about some matches because there's so many of them. I may talk about some outside stories of them on the road and stuff like that. And I'm just going to go with the flow, and I'm going to try to get these matches set in order from past to future. See what I come up with. I may just remember something that I just forgot, whatever. Well, anyways, let's get to it. I'm going to start the review of the Midnight Express. And some of you are probably here because you're a fan of the Midnight Express, or you're a wrestling historian and just want to know more about the Midnight Express. Now, let's stop the babbling and let me get to my review of the Midnight Express. So, in the beginning, the original Midnight Express actually consisted of Randy Rose and Dennis Condrey, and they were in independent wrestling and all that stuff. They made their mark somewhat, but they didn't make it to the big time. They looked like they just stayed in independence, and they were around for a couple of years, whatever. Got some belts probably in like independent. I saw a match where they got belts from independent show, independent independent show. Rap. And then they faded away. But then I see Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton, and the information I got was Bill Watts got Jim Cornette into the business. Jim Cornette would like take pictures and stuff at he was a wrestling fan, but he'd take pictures at wrestling events. So Jim Watts gets into the business, and he ends up getting with Dennis Condrey and beautiful Bobby Eaton, and they are also called the Midnight Express. Now, they don't call them the new Midnight Express. They're just called Midnight Express. I've never heard them being called the new Midnight Express. By the way, there's going to be... and I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. This video is only going to be about Dennis Condrey. I will do a part 2 on Stan Lane. So, be watching out for my video for Stan Lane, which will be the part 2. This one's just Dennis Condrey, Bobby, and Jim Cornette. Mainly. So they get all together, Jim Cornette, Dennis Condrey, and beautiful Bobby. And I spot them, which is Mid-South Wrestling. There I see them... you're going to find a lot of matches on YouTube of them wrestling Midnight Express versus Mr. Wrestling 2 and Magnum T8, which I never thought about. I think I recently just found out Magnum T8 and Wrestling 2 were a tag team. They get in a feud with the Midnight Express, and briefly about that match, what I saw. The main thing I saw was Mr. Wrestling 2 has a devastating knee lift. That's his finisher move. And he knee lifted Bobby Eaton so bad near the ropes that when Wrestling 2 connected with a neat lift on Bobby Eaton. Bobby Eaton went all the way over the top rope and he fell to the floor and he didn't injure himself. I'm like, wow, all the way to the top, to the, over the, I mean, so with that knee lift, I'm telling you, Mr. Wrestling 2, like, he actually hit him with a knee lift where Bobby went over the rope and he just went, it's how much is the drop is that? From the top rope to the bottom, that'd be what, 15 feet or something? That's dangerous. Bobby continued with the match. Wow, surprisingly. And they have several matches with Mr. Wrestling 2 and Magnum. There's one that's funny where they have Dennis and Bobby. They have these really nice ropes. They come to the ring and they just start fighting with Magnum in Wrestling 2. In one of those matches, Magnum gets, I don't know, it's either Bobby or Condrey. It's probably Dennis because Dennis is a funny one. And they wrap one of them. That was probably Dennis in his robe. And Mr. Wrestling has a robe too, and he's still beating up on Dennis and Dennis is trying to get out of there. It could have been Bobby, but I think it was Dennis. It's hilarious. You gotta watch it. They have several matches with Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2. If y'all don't know, I just found out that the Midnight Express got another thing that happened with Wrestling 2 and Magnum. Wrestling 2 and Magnum are ready to wrestle, and I believe that's the one where Jim Cornette brought a bag or something. He put it in the ring. He's like, "You're gonna find out what that is in the bag. You're gonna find out." And then they side blinded. They hit Mr. Wrestling 2, and they knocked him out either with a racket or something. And then both of them. So Mr. Wrestling 2's out. He's knocked out on the canvas on the ring, and they start double teaming on Magnum TA, and they beat him up. And then what they get out of the bag is like some kind of, I think it's like a jar or something with tar or something. And they put like this grease tar, whatever, on Magnum TA, and they have him like he's head first on the canvas, and they pour all that gunk, tar, whatever it is, grease, they put all over his body. And then they go back to the bag and it has like a pillow with feathers or something, and they put feathers, like tarred and feathered Magnum TA. It was hilarious. It was funny. So that they had the feud with them, and then they go on a feud with the Rock and Roll Express. Those are good matches, and then I'm gonna go over the moves in these matches. Dennis usually, I don't know, he's a out of all three of them, Dennis is the one that he's been around the business for a while. I won't mention this again, but I'll say it right now because Jim Cornette says that Dennis Condrey has been wrestling ever since the early 70s. So around this time, he's already been in the business, 10, 12 years, something like that. So he's the veteran, and he's the one that really, the real brains behind the operation. It looks like it's Jim Cornette, but no, it's Dennis Condrey. He's a veteran. He has way more years in the business, more than Jim Cornette. And the moves I see Dennis Condrey do in these matches is usually a backbreaker, and he does a lot of stomps. For some reason, I can't see him doing a lot of moves. Bobby Eaton's the one that does a lot of moves. Bobby Eaton has a swinging neck breaker, and I'm gonna mention I'm gonna mention the whole bunch. I love Bobby Eaton's right hand. He can really swing it. He can really throw that right hand. Sometimes he'll get you like this. You get your neck lock and boom. I mean, it's fast. It's really fast, and it makes a sound, and it's very devastating. The move I see Bobby and Condrey both doing is the backbreaker. Um, Bobby Eaton is the high flyer of the group. I've seen him do a knee, which is makes me nervous when he will jump off the top rope on his opponent using a knee. Um, Bobby Eaton has an Alabama jam, but I don't think he does that till later on. It's a the Alabama jam is the leg lock for the leg drop from the top rope, and which later on, interesting enough, when he tags with Regal way years afterwards, he's gonna call it the Tower of London because Steven Regal is a British wrestler. All right, let's get back to the matches. They wrestle the Rock and Roll Express. Usually the same thing. Jim Cornette gets involved, and he uses a tennis racket and hits him with a tennis racket and stuff like that. They also wrestle the Fantastics, and I think that this is still Mid South Wrestling. They're wrestling the Fantastics, and Bobby Fulton is real funny. He mocks the Midnight Express by shaking his butt a little bit and all that stuff. Um, Same old stuff, man. The matches, to me, they're really good. Uh, it's just the same thing. Just Jim Cornette getting involved with a tennis racket. They do a scaffold match with the Rock and Roll Express. I don't know. I want to say that's the first scaffold match ever. The scaffold match is what they put like two beams and they go up and they're high in the sky like for like 30 feet up there. Um, but I doubt it. It's the first scaffold match. I bet you there's to be something before, but it's the first one. The first one I saw was the Road Warriors, and I'll get to that. But in this one, um, I do remember the move where it's always the same thing. It's like Bobby Eaton, they need to go up because the rules is you're gonna get both tag teams up in that scaffold. That's gonna be like a beam on the top. They're 30 feet high in the air, and uh, I believe the rules are the first two. It's either like the first two wrestlers up there that fall, well, they lose the match. The ones that are on top win the match, or you can say the other way around. The first two that are standing, or even one, I believe even one that's standing in that, they're the team is gonna win. Well, I do remember in this match, um, Bobby doesn't want to go up because he's afraid. Dennis looks afraid too, but he starts going up. He gets up, and then Bobby does. The Rock and Roll Express, they're the faces, man. They're the good guys. They go up like nothing. They go up there and they're waiting. But when Bobby and Dennis are up there, I believe they're ready. They're gonna try to fight finally. And then the Rock and Roll Express, it's like I think Robert's the one that he spreads his legs up there, and then Ricky Morton crawls under there for a sneak attack, and he goes and starts attacking them, and they start fighting. They start fighting up there. There, Robert Gibson. Remember, he almost falls. He's like hanging off the beam and stuff like that. And then Bobby's the one that always goes. He's under. He gets under the beam. He's like monkey, like he's like hanging off the beam, like monkey bars on the bottom. Robert hits him twice. Robert gets down there also, and he's hanging like monkey, and he starts kicking him. Bobby in the gut with his Robert swinging and with his legs and starts kicking Bobby, and he kicks Bobby, and Bobby goes down, and then they also kick Dennis too, the same way, and they fall like that. And the Rock and Roll Express win that one. That match. Then you got the Dennis and Bobby, the feud with Dennis and Bobby, feuding with the Rock and Roll Express. It goes all the way. They all go to NWA Jim Crockett Promotions, and they start wrestling over there too. They have their matches there, but the thing that comes to mind next is the next scaffold match with the Road Warriors, and I remember that very clearly. Um, Jim Cornette had said that there was in NWA Jim Crockett Promotions. I think the Midnight Express attacked the Road Warriors in the ring by sneak attack. They hit him with a racket, and Jim Cornette had said in the Road Warriors video that that was the first time that anybody had taken down the Road Warriors. You know, they sneak attacked them, but they still took down the Warriors. They beat them up, but they had a sneak attack. Pretty sure with a racket, Jim Cornette's tennis racket. So now they're gonna go. They're gonna have a scaffold match, but the Road Warriors go to Japan. And before they go to Japan, there's like a those. It's a big scaffold like for painters that paint buildings are up way high. The Road Warriors in the scaffold, and they have pumpkins that I think they put their names like Bobby and Dennis, and then they throw. They're pretending that the pumpkins are Bobby and Dennis, and then they're up there and they have the pumpkin. And they're like, "Here you go, Bobby." They throw Bobby's pumpkin, the pumpkin with Bobby's name in it, and here you go, Dennis. They throw it down. They throw the pumpkin down. The pumpkins break on the ground and stuff like that. You know, so when the Road Warriors return from Japan, they're gonna have a scaffold match with the Midnight Express, which they do. So the match starts, and the Road Warriors they get there, of course, with Paul Elder, their manager, and they go up the scaffold real quick. They climb, and they're up there being all tough. They're not afraid. And then once again, it's the same thing like the Rock and Roll Express. Bobby's being scared to go up there, and Dennis is the first one to go up, but slowly, but scared, but he does. They finally get up there, so they're both on the scaffold, and the Road Warriors they go fight with these guys, and I know at one point, Animal's almost. Oh, I think Dennis is the one that's fighting with Animal. And he throws like powder in his eyes, and then Bobby throws powder in Hawk's eyes while they're fighting, and they cheat that way. And then now the Midnight Express have the advantage over the Warriors of beating up. But the Road Warriors, of course, they're gonna recover. And it's like it's almost like the same thing like a rock and roll scaffold match. And I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Hawk is the one that's swinging, gets in the bottom. No, Bobby does the same thing. He's in the beam on the bottom, hanging like monkey bars, and he's climbing and climbing. Hawk goes after him and ends up kicking him. Same thing, and kicking Bobby in the gut or whatever, and then Bobby goes down, and then Dennis follows, and then he's there on the bars and he's hanging, and then Hawk kicks him, doing the same thing with the monkey bars, and Dennis goes down, he falls down. And I saw Bobby when Bobby went down, and when he landed on his legs and on his butt. They never asked how he did, and I could have sworn Jim Cornette went up there and then he fell. Yeah, he fell. Jim Cornette goes up there, but that's like the last video I saw. They didn't show it all, so I guess I saw the wrong video, or maybe I turned it off. Whatever, I thought it was over. But I think Jim Cornette goes up there because it does come on the video that Jim Cornette goes up there, and then Paul Levy goes after him, and then Jim Cornette falls down. I think he's running away from Paul Levy, and that's why Jim Cornette goes up there. And then when Jim Cornette falls down, he falls down, whatever. Big Bubba, his bodyguard, supposed to catch him, but it is said that Big Bubba has these glasses and he can't pinpoint when he can't see that good with the glasses. He should take the glasses off, and then he's supposed to catch Jim Cornette, but Jim Cornette falls and he misses, and then Jim Cornette falls in his legs and his butt and screws up his legs so bad they have to carry him out. So the Road Warriors win that scaffold match. The next match that comes to mind as the final one I'm gonna do probably. It's I like the idea. It's gonna be you see Dennis Condrey left the business, so he left Bobby and Jim Cornette, and Jim Cornette and Bobby get another tag team partner, which is going to be Stan Lane, which is the new Midnight Express, but they're not called the new Midnight Express. And they set up a match where it's going to be uh, uh, Dennis Condrey gets with his old tag team partner from the original Midnight Express with Randy Rose, and their manager is going to be Paul Lee Dangerously, and they're going to feud with the new Midnight Express, which is Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane. So they do have a match in the NWA, and I forget what's really cute sometimes. A lot of times in the matches, they're gonna start the match. I think sometimes they say like this: Bobby Eaton and Jim Cornette, they're gonna hit high fives, but no, they decide to hug. And one time I saw like in a match where Jim Cornette, he's like he hugs and he's like, Bobby, like come back, and he gives him a kiss on the cheek, and he's like, what's going on? He tells like the crowd, and the crowd's like boo boo. So they do have the match of the new Midnight Express and versus the old Midnight Express with Paulie Dangerously, and they're fighting and stuff. I think that's where I see Dennis do a backbreaker. Bobby even gets his swinging neck breaker either on Randy or uh, or Dennis, and they bring out the tennis racket. Actually, what happens at the end of that match is Paulie dangerously uses a phone. I think he hits either Bobby or Stan Lane, and they go down, and then they go for the pin, and Theodore Arlong's like is a referee at the time. He's like, "Did you use the phone? Did you use the phone?" and stuff like that. And and then in that match, the Stan Lane and Beautiful Bobby, they end up pinning the Midnight Express and the old original Midnight Express, so they win. But Dennis and Randy Rose end up sneaking up on the Midnight Express, beating them up, and they beat him up, and the tennis racket is used. Actually, I remember Dennis was using the tennis racket, hitting both of them, Bobby and Sweet Stan, and they got the upper hand on the new Midnight Express. Bobby and Stanley won the match, but Dennis and Randy Rose end up beating them up pretty bad. Sneak attacking them and hitting them when they're behind and beating them up pretty bad, which is gonna set up the feud will continue, and it's gonna be in a pay-per-view. But what ends up happening is that Dennis has some personal problems, whatever, and he leaves. So it's gonna be Stan Lane, Bobby Eaton, and Jim Cornette versus Dennis Condrey, and with manager Paulie, and Jack Victory is gonna take the place of Dennis Condrey, and they have that match, and the new Midnight Express gets the win on them, and that ends the feud. And sadly enough, Dennis, he left, and I really wanted to see the rematch. It would have been cool, but at least I got to see the match. It was like an NWA, televised event, but they didn't get to finish the feud, which would probably finish the feud in the pay per view. So I didn't like that, but at least I saw them wrestle. It was cool. I liked the match. It was cool. The one with Jack Victory is pretty good too. Oh, and by the way, when they wrestled Jack Victory, the stipulation is whoever gets pinned has to leave the NWA, has to retire from wrestling, whatever. And the New Midnight Express, they pinned Randy Rose, and he has to leave. It was like a loser leave town kind of deal, so they pinned him, and he had to leave the NWA. I did promise you an outside story. One out story I heard Jim Cornette say is that they ran into a wrestler back in the day with Bobby and Dennis Condrey, and they ran into a wrestler called Buzz Sawyer. Supposedly that guy does a lot of drugs, steroids, whatever. Crazy guy. I like him as a wrestler. He's really cool. Buzz Sawyer. He's built, good wrestler and all that. He usually wins most of his matches. And something that they got in a feud with him, and this guy went looking for them in their trailer, and said that Dennis Condrey had a gun. They would carry guns because the Midnight Express, the fans hate them so much, because of all the heat they got, and they would carry guns or a gun when fans would actually go after them. And when they were in their car traveling the matches, people would actually go in their cars and travel after them. And Dennis Condrey carried a gun for protection. So it's interesting enough that this wrestler Buzz Sawyer went to their trailer and wanted to beat him up or whatever, and Dennis had the gun for protection, and they're gonna mess with Dennis. He has a gun. So that concludes my part one of the Midnight Express with Dennis Condrey. A lot of fun adventures, man. A lot of seeing their matches. Hear Jim Cornette about the stories. Yeah, it was really cool stories. He's a good talker. He's a good storyteller. He's great. They're really good, man. So that concludes my review of the Midnight Express with Dennis Condrey. Stay tuned for the next one. The next one will be the Midnight Express with Stan Lane. These are the only teams I'm gonna do the Midnight Express. I heard there's other Midnight Expresses. I don't care about them. I haven't seen them. I don't care. I'm only gonna do review with Midnight Express with Dennis Condrey, and the next one which with Stan Lane, and that's it. I don't care for any other Midnight Expresses, whatever. It doesn't get any better than these two. These two. So I'm gonna get up on out of here. Thanks for watching my review, and once again, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like my videos, and stay tuned for Midnight Express Part 2. It should be coming soon. I already done my research and everything. I just need to do this video and get ready to do the next one with Midnight Express with Stan Lane. So you guys take care. Last time, stay tuned for the Midnight Express with Stan Lane, which I will be doing pretty soon. And so I'm out, and take care of yourselves. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourself. God bless. Bye-bye.